this week, the culmination of so many aspects that have happened over the weeks really came into clearer vision. For several weeks now, the essence that shows the Medusa head and the never-ending thoughts and atmospheres that are around us and that can so consume us because it is never-ending, and to find a focus in that and to stay on the path with that. So I'm just going to go over a quick recap of what showed up, because at the end it sort of brings about a really profound way of seeing that the nothing that is mentioned so often. Because, you know, when people come and see you or me, sometimes I'll say, well, how many sessions is this going to take? How long does this take? Well, it's like a car, you know. I mean, how long do I have to keep servicing my car? But to the point here is, the answer I give is, it depends how quickly we get to the nothing. Same as a mechanic, you know, something shows up, they fix it up, it becomes the nothing. And then we ride along until something appears, and then we make that the nothing. And then there are times we choose a whole new life, and in that it's a new car. And some people like new cars a lot because it's the latest edition, and others just go from A to B, and they service the car, they love their car, and they move with that. Sorry about the pings. So, great celebration was had yesterday. And the theme of this week is celebrate the nothing. And by the time we come to the conclusion here, we can see the enormous non-ness of the nothing, or the celebration of the nothing. And one is so alive, and we can skip the nothing because it's nothing. It's a form of taking it so deeply to the nothing that even the gratitude appears because it's there. You know, those who still sit at dinner tables and say a gratitude before eating, that instead of just taking it for granted is a celebration, and everything gets uplifted, including the consciousness of the food we are nourishing ourselves with or just enjoying. There is so much we make nothing. This is about celebrating it. So the week pretty much started off with, again, that Medusa head with not just thoughts going round and round, but volumes. There are volumes of books there, instead of what's on my page today. And even then, is something really essential? Let's start with that first, or if there isn't, to choose, to choose, whatever that choice is. Sometimes it takes a lot of, it has to be done now to even get action going. I know it does for me. I could put things off for weeks, even months, and then all of a sudden something's going to happen. I go, oh, better get that done, and then it gets done. No one's going to die if I don't do it. So these thoughts, these volumes literally created an environmental toxicity within the body. Now, there are supplements people can take to detox their body. Stress is the biggest toxicity that we encounter. It disturbs everything because it isn't the nothing. Even digestion needs to be so broken down into its parts to be made into that nothing, so that when it goes into our body, we then create the aspect of self. Because if that's not done, and it isn't that self, allergies, because the self fights the not self. And very often when that fight goes on, allergies are in the body because of the fight with self. Because it cannot digest what's not self. And when the ability to make things nothing appears, the peace, the calmness, the digestion of the nothing, and then what appears, whether it's in your digestion or in the world, can then hopefully be utilised. Because unless what we ingest or what we meet is utilised, and nothing is good or bad, depends on your ability to digest. So it did show up that it's really important to watch how you label things. Because if you make it bad, it's information, and it still is, how do you make that nothing and move forward with your choices? It's an aid to say who I am and who I am not. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, because in the long run, I do believe things are perfectly imperfect, and if it wasn't, we wouldn't be continuing to meet ourselves and in the process become more and more of what we can unpack. Because who knows what we are? We're constantly unpacking. I certainly didn't know this was the unpacking when I was 5. I was horrid when I was 5. So the volumes of books that we carry instead of what's before us today was very much part of what this week was about. The thing is, when we try to be perfect and we have these volumes, what happens is we end up with low self-esteem because we can't find the perfect. And then because most people have these qualities are quite extraordinary in these volumes and what they're capable of, it then turns into judgment of others. And then that becomes disturbing. And the low self-esteem is there. And why can't they hear me when it's not their hearing? It's not where they're at. I had the wonderful opportunity of having a session with someone where their capacity to be strong and to be in leadership and to, I think it showed up last week too, you know, this sense of, why don't you just listen to me when I say something? Why don't you just do it? This time, what showed up was this wanting to let this shell of over lifetimes of having leadership positions and needing to be strong and all of that, it melted. You could just see it melt out of the body. And what appeared was a gentle man. And it was felt by both of us at the same time, and it was like, oh, this is nice. Oh my God, this feels so good. And what followed on from that was, I got the feedback after that evening, a discussion was held like never before with another loved one. And that this discussion was long and revealing, and creativity showed up rather than resistance. And I think it was a night to remember as a turning point of how when we are a gentle man or gentle woman that holding that space, the best can appear because the listening arrives. It was so beautiful. So what followed from there was a being who felt incredibly lost, a feeling of lost. It's like, well, what are we here for? And couldn't find the words. They couldn't find the words. And sitting with it, in that discussion, seeing what would arise, the words came, I'm lost, I feel lost. When in fact there was no lost there. As I said, I don't know, I can see you sitting there. This being is the most beautiful, artistic, loved by everyone she comes across being. It isn't everyone's path to go, I know exactly what road I'm on. I know exactly what I love. And when we start to look for bigger pictures that we feel we should have in our life, we feel lost because it doesn't come from that way of expectation. Again, that aspect of nothingness. So what showed up here, and I wrote it down before starting this, was nothing is lost when there is no road before you. Do today and the next thing that you prefer as that excitement or that next choice, whatever that is, because in that you actually meet yourself. And in that process it became clear what her next choice was, and in that next choice there was an excitement that was so preferred that that was the next step. But those next steps often can't be used when we feel it has to be a large picture, like a 5-year-old needing to see what they're going to be in present time that I have now. We're not lost. And we're certainly not lost when we're in the nothingness. Then what had me pondering so deeply was a session of, and both times actually, people came with considerable pain that was not moving, and in one way or another quite debilitating. And it really did go to this deeper underlying aspect of seeing the deep unseen niggling that when seen can come to the surface, and a lightness and a renewal can come through because that deep issue is seen, appreciated and released. And when we started doing the session, for me anyway, that what initially shows is like the headline of what is going to be explored or is going to be seen until the nothing appears of it. And this time, the couple were both here, and I thought, how am I going to say this? And I go, don't take this personally, because I don't think it is a personal thing. But she was saying, I want to take my wedding ring off. I just want to take my wedding ring off. And I thought, what is this? Because this being knew from the onset of 17 seeing him, knew she was going to marry him. It was just known to her. And knowing that, she left it where it was, kept living her life, knowing that that was him. And the next thing that really showed up was the Spirit speaking up, and the Spirit said, oh, makes no difference to me, because when you transition to the other side, it'll still be there. So it was this aspect of what this is was there before we came. We have it here now, and it'll be there when we transition on the other side. It's got nothing to do with the ring. But the fact that this seeing and the nothingness of it all, because there is no doubt in it, but there's also no relief from it. And when I say relief, there doesn't need to be a relief. It needs to be celebrated. How do we celebrate that we wake up with each other every day? Whether it's an animal, yourself, the wholeness is whole regardless the situation. In fact, what actually showed at one stage was the viscous and Pisces viscous. And you know, we have this relationship that we have it as a wholeness, and when we meet another, there's this common bond that arrives, that is the sharing, and it allows this aspect of self to be lived in freedom. And that's often used as what a union is. But I've seen unions where that circle and the partner was so aligned that was either positive or negative, depending on how they saw that. And to see another as whole and self as whole does not mean a disconnection. Science has shown that there are no particles that touch. They don't touch, nothing touches. It's like the stars in the skies. The space between them is vast, and that is for ourselves. We've just condensed ourselves so much that we are able to have this physicality. I mean, there are dimensions that if you put a pen down, when you come back it might not be there. When we put a pen down, it's going to stay there, which is extraordinary. And we just make it nothing. So this is a very healthy relationship. The others are also healthy. They're experiences of relationship. But at the end of the day, that's the truth. So, in this, came through the ability to have set up time, because by that relationship was so in the ever-presence of all and ever will be, that it can almost disappear and become disheartening. And it becomes the feeling of such heaviness because there's no moving away from it. It's the same as when we end up at work and going, this isn't working for me anymore, and then work becomes work rather than whatever way you look at it. Going to work sometimes is delightful because I know I'm feeding my family, or I know that this will make a difference to us being able to enjoy some things together, or I love that this is just the amount that I need to simply live my life and have more time to myself, whatever the process is. But it becomes something that is a celebration and a gratitude and reminding of this is exactly what I want in terms of how I can have the balance in my life. But it needs to be found, it needs to be celebrated. Lift the nothing into a focus of being able to say, how extraordinary. The Dalai Lama, I can remember he was discussing his sessions in relationships, and he had a couple who were ready to separate because they said, we're not in love anymore. So they went their own way, and he said they realised when they were apart that the friendship that they had was the everything. This in-loveness can be a disease. The sense of celebrating and appreciation, and to bring it forth into a physical experience through self, others, or in relation to that which we meet. May you have lots of that and the awareness and the celebration of it. It's not good, it's not bad, it's a gift for you to find out who you are and what you prefer. And we certainly aren't lost. Stay on your own page. So the card that was pulled was listening. Actually, the first thing that's worth reading is the essence that came up. And the essence that came up was dog rose. And it sort of followed on from last week, where it showed up that to really be self is scary. They may not like us anymore. They may move. It is fearful to be honest, truly honest. So the negative conditions were fearful, shy, insecure, apprehensive with other people. Who makes the first move to celebrate the nothing? So many wait for the other to come first, or the other to be the initiator. And those couples who both initiate and are always celebrating and always entering into what can be celebrated, what can come together, oh my God, to have that in your life is the best. Positive outcome, confidence, belief in self, courage, ability to embrace life fully. It says the striking feature of dog rose is that the flowers hang down. They appear to have dropped and rounded shoulders, like a defeated person. Dog rose is the essence for treating fears, niggling little fears, sometimes they're not so little, not terror. Overcoming fear allows an increase in the flow of vital force, quality of life, courage, and self-esteem. It is also for shy, insecure, timid, nervous people. And I'd say we all have that quality before really jumping into the void, not knowing the outcome, and speaking it. And that speaking does come from this card, which is listening. Now is the time to listen to your intuition. Slow down and quieten the mind chatter. Listen to your own words and ensure you are using positive language. So important. When you hear others, make sure you really listen to what is being said, and remember to listen to more than just the words. Listen to your world with your heart. I love this week. Hope you too get inspiration to embrace life, enjoy, bring it out, experience in the physical. Much love.